Aloha!
Aloha!
Hi.
It's Julie Zemelis and Eric Zemelis from 365 Hawaii and Big Island Real Estate Minute, and we're here with Delania Branham, and she's from eXp Realty, and she has been a realtor here in Kona for at least 11 years, right? So she has something to say. And today we're going to be talking about condos in Hawaii.
Woo! For all those people that are thinking condo, house, condo, house, house, condo. This is for you.
Both. Yep. And right now in 2020, what's happening is that the housing market is on fire and single family home prices are pretty high. So a lot of people are now looking at condos as an opportunity to buy housing here in Hawaii. But we're also going to know that a bunch of folks have been thinking about retiring on the Big Island for many years, and they've always thought they were going to buy a condo. So we're going to hit the idea of people who are coming here, they're looking in Kona, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening up on the North Coast. But it's all about condos today, guys. So let's get started. Okay, in general, and this question goes to Delania, where are condos in West Hawaii generally located?
Most of the condos you're going to find are going to be right along Ali'i Drive, which is kind of cool because we're looking at it right now. There's a pretty long strip of condos. There's a few just off the strip, but for the most part, you're in like a 10-mile range, close to the ocean.
Yep. And in terms of what's available up north?
Yeah.
So it's mostly condos actually on the ocean, unless you're looking at multi-million-dollar houses.
Yeah.
Wait, maybe we should describe where up north is.
Okay.
For those people that don't
Give
know.
us a location thought process.
Location, downtown Kona is where we are. The condos that we're talking are up by the resorts, and that's near Waikoloa, and it's about 35 minutes from here to get here. So just to put
depending on where you are. 35, 40 an hour if you're in Kona. An hour. Kona is kind of a wide range, so South Kona versus North Kona.
We are kind of close to the front. But anyways, you get in, you drive north.
And you go through a long lava field that you don't feel like coming back to go to Kona very often if you're up there. That's my opinion. Then what's the difference in condos in general of condos here in Kona versus up in the Waikoloa area?
So there's two parts of Waikoloa. There's the Waikoloa Village, which is, what would you say, like 15 minutes?
Yeah, six miles.
Ocean, 6 miles. You live there. You live there. You know that area very well. So it's mostly residential. There is a school. There's some shopping. They're putting in a huge new shopping development.
That's what I've heard.
I think slated next year, maybe.
They were supposed to be
completed.
in 2018, but whatever. That was a long time ago.
This is Hawaii, right? Things go slow. So there's some very affordable condos in the area. Now, if you go down towards the beach area, you're closer to the resorts. So you're near some of the really expensive resorts, which translate to some really expensive condos.
Okay, then when you say expensive, right now, as of 2020, what are you looking like in terms of median prices?
So there's Waikoloa Beaches area, and then there's the Maunalani area. Waikoloa Beaches, your lowest is going to be in the mid 400,000s for a purchase price. Maunalani, your lowest is going to be probably in the mid 6s for a purchase price.
And also, I think that's important about that is also the association fees.
Okay,
and we'll talk about that.
And
then what are you thinking about for Kona? What can you get into?
Kona, I mean, you can buy a studio in Kona Kai for like 80,000. So,
but then you gotta live there.
Which might be wonderful for somebody that wants to be walkable to town. There's a huge range in Kona in terms of prices and HOA fees. It's kind of finding the balance between the right price and the right HOA that makes sense for that buyer. But it's a different vibe to Waikoloa and Maunalani area, the beaches area. It's very resort. Your HOA fees are probably $800, $1,000 is not unusual per month for your HOA. So that's definitely a price point difference, and the vibe is very different there. It's
kind of like you're always on vacation at the end of the day. But that's bad and good sometimes. Sometimes you get tired of being on vacation. You're like, I'd like to hang out with normal people.
Yeah, sometimes you want to live in town, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, it seems, who want to buy condos up there are buying them for second homes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
if you were to spend a month up there, it wouldn't be a big deal, right?
Yeah,
and
but not full time.
Right?
Yeah. A lot of the condos there do really well as vacation rentals, so people that want to be there part time and also rent them. A lot of times I hear when people, the first time they come to Kona, they go to that area, they go north, and it's like Disneyland, right? It's Hawaii Disney.
Lots
and
of
then
resorts.
They come to Kona and they're like, wow, this is totally different. Feels like a real place where people live and work.
Right.
Yeah.
And then single family, condo prices in Kona are around $320, $330 right now. Median price?
Totally depends what you're looking for.
Yeah,
but
like median price.
Trying to find something in Kona under 300,000, it's pretty slim pickings.
Okay.
Yeah.
So upper threes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want some variety, if you want more than one bedroom, if you want some options, then I would say try to be above 300,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So speaking of, they keep using the word HOA. Let's talk a little bit about that. If you're not aware of what an HOA actually is, so why don't you define that, and then you can talk a little bit about what that entails as well.
Sounds good.
So what is that?
So HOA is a homeowners association. You actually can have those with residential properties and with condos. The other term that's not used as often is AOAO, which is an Association of Apartment Owners. That's probably why we don't use it, because nobody can remember it. But that's specific to condominiums, and I think Eric can talk as a resident manager about kind of what that looks like.
Yeah, so the HOA covers a whole bunch of items that, and it's sort of, so you would, with your HOA, you would get the coverage of the outside of the building. Example, it covers your roofs, your siding, everything outside of your unit, essentially, including your front door sometimes. And then it also does things like insurance. So you've got basic insurance, but you can add more condo insurance on top of that. But it's just a basic insurance. You'd have your water covered. You would have your garbage covered. So these are all things. And included with the condo, you usually would have, like in a condo, you'd have a pool and some other amenities that go with it. So that the HOA covers all of those items. And what it does is, we were just talking about this, is that you're almost prepaying for problems that are going to happen for the condo. Example, if they're going to replace the roof in the condo in 15 years, they're already taking it out of your fees right now to make sure that there's enough money to cover it when the time comes for doing it. So
Okay. So HOA fees in terms of pricing, you were talking about up north, they can run as high as.
Well, they can go really high, but I think you want to assume you're going to be around 800 to maybe 1,100 a month across the average for there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in terms of Kona and North Kahala.
No, that's like
Okay, this is
North
North Kahala.
Kahala resort areas. If you're in Kona, I usually tell people consider 500 to 800 the mid-range. Sometimes you can find under 5. I think mid-3s is probably the lowest I've seen. They can get up to 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 a month depending on the project.
Right. And also how many bedrooms that you purchase.
Yeah,
with the
it's
condo.
based on your
Size.
square footage. So in one building, you might have 2 different HOA fees depending on if it's a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom or 1 or a 2. So, yeah. But it covers a lot. I mean, I always tell people that the HOAs kind of pays for everything outside. You want insurance on the interior of the building. If you want upgraded cable, you pay your electric. But a lot of times they'll cover pest control, your sewer, your water, your rubbish, as you said. So it can be a lot less expensive than home ownership in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will say, oh gosh, I don't want an HOA fee because I don't want to pay that forever.
Yeah.
But when you own a home,
Yeah,
you're
are you
paying
paying a
that
gardener?
forever.
Are you paying a gardener? Are you paying, which is expensive here. I mean, I don't know anyone that gets their house landscaping done for under like $250 a month, unless they're doing it themselves. If you want a pool, you're paying a pool maintenance person. If you need a new roof, you're paying for a new roof. So it's kind of a toss-up of what's going to be more economical.
Right. So we call that the true cost of home ownership,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so so we were kind of talking about this. What does that compare to a single-family home upkeep in Hawaii, right? So you're going to have to pay insurance and flood control, fire,
Yeah.
all that stuff. Plus, if you're thinking about we're talking about what it costs to have a gardener. What's the cost to have a pool in your own
Yeah.
personal house too? And that's running about $250 a month as well.
For
pool is
maintenance,
expensive,
yeah.
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 And on top of that, you have to replace the water. Water's expensive here, so you've got these
Electric.
items. And electrical is
Electricity to
really
keep it
expensive.
heated, yeah.
So it goes on with those items. So it's not that far out. The two are not that far
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah. So don't always just think because it says HOA on it that's the cost of a house when you're not getting that bill when you're looking at single family homes,
Yeah.
right? Because no one's going to hand you that little bill until you start paying it yourself,
Yeah.
right? Okay. And then who manages the finances of the HOA and how do they govern the budget?
So all right. So the HOA, from my understanding, a long time ago, that the condo associations used to run their own budgets, and then what happened many years ago is that they ran into some trouble because they didn't manage their accounts properly, and they ran out of money because they weren't assuming that things were going to cost so much to fix in the future, or they just didn't account for it. So now there's a management company that takes care of all of the finances for a condo association, keeping the two separate. And what that does is that way there's always, and they have fiduciary duties and laws and rules rules that make sure that they are everything is paid for in the condo. So we don't have this when you all of a sudden have an extremely large assessment.
Yeah.
That's what and then they're the ones that takes care of the monthly fees and all that. They do all of those kinds of things.
And then the names of those things, like here in Hawaii, we have like Associa, Pacific, and then the board of directors from the HOA actually hire these management companies.
Yeah.
Management companies then make sure that the resident manager is doing her job, and then making sure that things are running kind of overall, right?
Yep.
They keep an eye on the resident manager.
They're
right.
the general, make sure that the association is doing the right thing. Make sure that the board is not making a left turn and doing things that you wouldn't want the board to do.
So that company basically ensures the people who are paying HOAs that the money is actually going to the right place.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But then there's the board of directors.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So then the board of directors, which anybody can jump into if they want to run for it on any condo complex.
It depends on the bylaws
Okay.
of each one of how the board is run, but generally, yeah. And my understanding is if you are a condo owner, you have certain rights in terms of, attending meetings and having a say-so. Oftentimes they can't change major rules without like a majority of the owners
2/3,
agreeing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because people ask me sometimes, well, where do I fit into this? How do I make things that
You have a
change?
voice.
So you have a voice.
So then, if you'd like, let's say you're an owner and you say, I see some ways that this association could run better. Then theoretically, depending on the association, and when there's an opening for the board member, you could become a board member and help change these things to make the
Right. And there's committees, right?
And they have different. Some of them do, depending how big it is what it boils down to. The bigger complexes do have some committees. Yeah.
Kind of like the government.
Yeah, so we were talking about the fact that it's a
Yeah.
small government,
Yeah.
basically. Okay, so talk about CC&Rs. What is that, and why is it important to read while you're in escrow?
CC&Rs are covenants, conditions, and restrictions. So they generally, you'll find those on any property, condos or residential properties. It's kind of sort of the rules, and generally CC&Rs, they run with the land. So each person that owns a property, those are the CC&Rs. They're part of the deed. They're part of the title. They're usually not as restrictive as an HOA, but you always want to read your CC&Rs because sometimes there's little things about you can't build an ohana, or you need to, just certain rules that you need to follow and be aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was trying to take my real estate test, one of the things too is that a woman put a blue roof on her house. And then everyone went bananas on her, and she said, "Someone did not write what color I could make my roof into those CC&Rs."
Yeah.
So
I mean, some areas are very, very, very specific, and some are not. Some have house size restrictions in the CC&Rs. You find it more so in newer neighborhoods where they get a little bit more restricted, or gated neighborhoods might have really restrictive CC&Rs. But any document you get in escrow, read it carefully and thoroughly.
Yes.
Don't
Yes.
expect someone
Yes.
else to give you the information.
Right, and also speaking of that, when you get into escrow, that's when you get your CC&Rs. You can't ask for that information before.
You can ask for it ahead of time. You can ask. You can ask for anything. No, CC&Rs are generally available with a preliminary title report. Sometimes you can find those online. Sometimes a good listing agent will run a preliminary title report before listing, so they'll have an access to it, and they're generally happy to share that with you because you want to know before you get into escrow if there's anything that you say is a deal breaker, right?
So also, I'm going to add
Yeah.
one more thing to this. On top of the CCRs, then the next step down would be the house rules.
Yeah.
And the house rules are sort of an abbreviated version of the CC&Rs. And then that's an easier one to kind of get a quick little synopsis of where the sticking points usually are.
Can you hang a towel on the lanai? No, you may not hang a towel on the lanai.
Yes,
Can you have a grill on the lanai? No, you may not.
And if you do have a grill, it might have to be electric and not gas fired, right? And also one of and we'll talk about this further too, is pet restrictions too. That's also in those house rules. So, and also even like things like with the pools, like you can't bring stuff into the pool, and you can't, you can't have 18 of your friends over.
Day-to-day rules for living.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And just in general, if you guys agree with me, if you are not a rule follower and you do not like people telling you what
Don't
to
buy
do,
a condo.
don't buy a condo.
Or live in a deed restricted
Wait,
neighborhood.
let me add to that. Hold on. Because I've managed a few different condo associations, and I will say this. Some associations run at a very high level of management, and some are much lower. So it just depends on on how strictly they feel that these rules should be enforced, and how strict the rules are too. So it's just one of those. So it varies by condo complex too.
Right. But again, when you have strict rules and regulations, and everyone knows what the rules are, there tends to be less fighting.
Yeah.
Right? Because everyone knows exactly what the story is. Like we were talking about, this is funny. There's a condo complex up higher. It's called the Kona coffee villas, and they had enough issues with dogs walking around pooping on the lawn that they had built it into the rules that if you put a dog into the complex, you have to get a DNA sample, so that way they can see if you don't take responsibility for
they test
picking
the
up. They test the poop, right?
Yeah, to see who's not picking up.
Right, and then they fine you.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So that
But
way,
it was an effective strategy.
yeah, it stopped people from fighting.
Well, and now they can allow pets, and they have a way to manage
Yeah,
and control
yeah.
it. And there are people that like living in a community where there's a level of control, and then there are people that don't want to be told what color to paint this or how to live their lives. And so you just have to pick your property based on what your needs are.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, one of the things you get too in the CCNRs is board minutes.
No, that's not part of the CCR. That's part of the association documents you get. You'll get it's fun weekend reading because it's hundreds and hundreds of pages. You get generally annual board minutes, recent meetings. You get a copy of the financial statement, the insurance summary. Also, too, if you're getting a loan, your lender gets a copy of all of that too because they want to make sure that the condo is financially sound and stable. Otherwise, they won't give you a loan.
There we go. Okay, so that's good to know because those you're talking like this thick. Right?
They're usually electronically, but it's a lot of documents and it's very dry reading, but it's very important.
Right.
Very, very important to read it because you can't go back later and say, I
didn't know
that. You sign the dotted line.
Okay, so speaking of what we're just talking about, what are some of the downsides to owning a condo? Right. So like.
Wait, I think we should phrase this a little differently.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Hold on here.
Well, we can talk about the upsides
Different
first.
aspects of living in a condo.
I think you should talk about the pros, the cons. They both have advantages and
Yeah.
disadvantages.
Okay. So we obviously
So let's
hit
include
some of
both those on there,
Okay.
That's
so,
not fair.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we just talked about some of the issues about rules. Okay. So let's talk about some of the. You want to talk about upsides?
Sure, the upside.
Okay, let's talk about it.
One thing is you can go in your condo. You can stay here for, like let's say you come in
Yeah.
for a month. You do your thing. You're done. You lock the door, and nothing's going to happen
You
until the
assume
next time.
nothing's gonna
Well, I mean, it could, but in general.
But yeah.
In
You
general,
can leave and not worry about someone breaking in.
But you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
It's pretty much it's done. You don't have to worry about somebody doing the maintenance. You don't have to worry about the lawn blowing up and the sprinklers going
A
crazy.
tree falling on the
Tree
roof.
falling on the roof. Somebody will take care of that. So it makes your job less. And when you're here, you can go to the beach every
Yeah.
day. You don't have to worry about doing anything. There's no problems. You can't come in and go, oh man, my lock is stuck because it froze because nobody's been in here or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
These are all things you probably don't have to worry about having a condo.
Okay. What do you think the upsides are?
Same upsides. A lot of people come here and they don't want to spend their time. They want to go to the beach. They don't want to do yard work. They don't want to worry about painting the siding again, because it peeled last year. So it's a more free lifestyle, I think. It's, yeah.
And I got another one. Also, I think because the cost is probably a little lower than home ownership
Yeah.
in the traditional sense, it affords a lot of people that normally wouldn't be able to get over here and have a foothold
Yeah.
in here to get in. So that I think
Yeah.
that in other words, it just makes it because when we came here, we were looking at houses and it was just too hard. But condo was something that we could do.
Right.
There is another aspect that a lot of people I see are utilizing more and more is that they want to live here. They don't want to be here full time because they have family on the mainland. So they buy a condo, they live in it part of the year, they rent it part of the year, so they have someone helping pay their mortgage and some offset of the cost, and they can travel and not worry about.
And I think let's add one more thing to that, to
Yeah.
renting it out. Here in Hawaii, we have the short-term vacation rental.
Yeah.
And what that means is that there's designated areas that you can rent condos and houses in. So it's much easier to rent. If you're going to rent it out, you know
Yeah.
that you can do it. There's no legal problems.
Yeah, you can do it with
Everything
a
is
condo.
paved smoothly for that.
Right. There's already a permit
And
for it.
like example where I am, that everybody else is renting out for a certain price. So roughly you're going to get per night,
Yeah.
and it's going to work out fairly well like that. So
Yeah, it's
I would say
seamless.
definitely an advantage of the condos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Downside. People next door are coming and they're vacationing next to your condo.
All right. Yes. That is what people come in all the time at different hours. Right? Well, let me back up. There's different types of condos. There's short-term rentals and longer-term rentals. The longer-term are more like a house, more like a community too. So
Yeah.
on a shorter-term place, depending on what your balance is, and it depends on the condo association, you'll have a revolving short-term rental people that come in all the time. So that means they may park in your place because they don't know any different. They may they wake up at 4:00 in the morning and be
They start
loud,
talking
on the
'cause it's
phone,
7 in there.
it's 7 or whatever it is. So these are some definite downfalls. And the fact that I think one of my things is that it pushes a whole bunch of people into a very small area,
Yeah.
which can be good and it can be bad. And I'll state one more thing on that. there's loud people and there's quiet people. Loud people will always be loud no matter if they try not to be or whatever, and that's just part of it. So if you're a quiet person, you hear somebody yakking away super loud, that's just the way it is, and there's not much you can do about it. I mean, you can tell them to be quiet during quiet hours, but that only works so much.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and also, too, a downside is that if you want to remodel the heck out of your condo, sometimes you can't touch stuff because it might affect, because Eric was talking about this, that you can only remodel during certain times of the years because of the noise on everybody else.
Right.
And then also sometimes when you want to, like, blow out, a door or something like that.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
You can't do that, right?
But and the answer for that is that we have specific times that you can remodel, and you have to have a 30 to 60 day notice to let everybody know that you're going to be doing something. So it's not quite like a house where you just call up the contractor next day and say, "Come on, let's get down and let's blow this out."
Right.
Yeah. It's just a more restrictive lifestyle in general. And again, if you want to live in a community, like a clean community,
it's a community.
And also too, I think, because especially in Kona, all of our condos are right along that LE corridor close to the ocean. You don't have an opportunity to live in a higher elevation where it gets cooler. You have more of a climate change. You don't generally have much of a yard or any yard. So if you want to garden and things like that, you might put some pots on the lanai, but it's just a different lifestyle.
So let's talk about that. About one thing that it's always a hot topic here in Hawaii is temperature. And by the ocean, of course, is always warmer.
Yeah.
And so one of the downfalls of being in a condo, whether you have air, goes into do you have air conditioning or do you not have air conditioning? I think we might talk about it later. But it makes a big difference if you're down by the ocean and you don't have air conditioning, it's hot. You know what I mean? And that's something to think about for the condo and whether they allow air conditioning and is there an easy way to do it?
Whether you want to pay that bill.
Or whether you want to pay the bill.
Right.
Air conditioning bill can run anywhere from anywhere from $100 to $400 for air conditioning, depending on how big. And it could be more if it's a bigger space. I'm talking about particularly for a condo, a 2-bedroom condo, roughly.
Right. But there's and just so you guys know too, we were talking about that not every condo complex is a stackable thing. There is a little neighborhood here called the Pines.
Yeah.
And they're almost like little townhouses. They're set standalone.
Well, they're
little
single-family homes. Yeah.
But they act like a condo complex.
It's an interesting one because they're single-family homes. You have a 2-car garage. You have a courtyard, a decent-sized yard space. You feel like you're living in a house, but the community is run as a condominium. So the association, last time I checked, I think it's around $500 a month. I have to double check and see. But they cover your roof, your exterior painting, your fence, the water, I think they do rubbish service, exterior landscaping. So it's kind of the best of both worlds because you live in a single family home. You pay a moderate monthly HOA fee, but you don't have some of the home ownership costs that you would normally have with a house. So it can be a fun mix of the two.
Yeah, that was definitely a crossover.
Yeah,
I know a lot of
and
people.
It's a little bit
and they allow pets there.
They allow pets.
That's one of the things.
And you have your little yard.
Sidewalks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a nice, but especially for someone that's retired that doesn't want the physical aspects of home ownership, that wants some of that covered but doesn't want to live in a condominium, it can work.
But the downfall is, since they're not go by the standard. It's not a standard size house. Everything is sort of compacted together. The houses are pushed together a little. It's all a little tighter.
Your lots I think are around 5,000 square foot lots, so they're smaller lots.
But less landscaping.
Yeah, I mean less landscaping, but 2 or 3 bedroom condos. I mean, houses, but I know a few people that have bought in Pines, and they're very happy. And you're close to town.
Yeah, right down. And they're 450, 500, somewhere other.
In the fives.
In the fives now. It just keeps going up.
It changes, right? It changes as we speak,
used to be
as
in
the
the
saying
30s.
goes.
Right. And because I know sometimes people say, what did they just say? It's called the Pines.
Yeah,
and it's located off of 90 Kailua. Okay, upsides, downsides. Okay, we got features. Okay, so we were talking about sometimes different condo complexes have different things that you might not know that are important to you.
Until you don't have them.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of that, again, we also want to talk about there's sometimes people who come who are retired and mobility is an issue and they want ground floor, but they also want elevators. Talk to us a little bit about what's that like.
There's only a handful of complexes here that have elevators.
And it goes back to I can add a little to that. Most of these complexes were built in the 70s and 80s, and most of them are less than 3 stories because we can't go that high anyway. So it just wasn't quite worthy of putting in the elevators, and elevators are incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
So it definitely
maintenance fees up.
it's a high ticket item. So it makes sense why they don't have elevators.
Yeah, so know that most complexes you're going to have stairs to your unit. Covered parking is not very common here.
Which is funny because the sun is bright here,
yeah.
and it will burn your car paint right off your car in a few years.
Yeah, but it's just not common here. Air conditioning, central air conditioning is. I mean, you find it occasionally in the newer buildings, but again, it's
how many?
It's
do you know
expensive.
how many? Can you name the complexes that have central AC? I mean, there are not that many of them.
Okay,
right?
Casa and Demko.
Yeah,
That's one.
and
but-
that one's interesting because the HOA actually covers the electric, not all the electric, but the electric for to run the air conditioning is covered. So
But-
it comes off a little bit, but you
the-
pay a high maintenance fees.
the maintenance fees is quite
like $9.
I don't know what it
think.
is, but
Yeah.
it's
around
yeah.
900. Yeah. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that have.
But
so
they're-
Kona by the Sea has one. There's a handful, but it's not going to be when you come here. You're not going to go. I definitely want an elevator. I definitely want covered parking because you're going to have to really limit your search if those are definites. You can find it, but
And you might,
just,
and you,
yeah.
and that's the case if these are, these modern conveniences,
Yeah.
shall we call them? I think the resorts up north would probably be a better place for them because
Yeah,
they're-
but even still, the elevators
Really?
are not
Okay.
that. Yeah,
All right.
yeah. I mean,
Elevators are expensive because
I know,
the,
I know,
the
we got
sea
that, yeah.
air will eat up the entire
I was thinking
mechanisms.
more of air conditioning and covered
air
parking.
conditioning. Air conditioning is a little more common. Covered parking. We were just in Goff Villas at Mount Alani yesterday. So this is, for instance, they're in the low sixes. Monthly fees are $1,000 a month. Beautiful complex. No covered parking. There is a garage, a one-car garage for storage, which is nice. But you walk in and the front door, I mean, there's maybe 12 steps up. Front door, you go in, steps up, and then you have another steps up to a loft. So for somebody that wants, an elevator, it's not, even at that price point, you're not necessarily going to get it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, those do have central AC. But again, that's not super common. And honestly, you don't really, part of the beauty of living here is we have such wonderful climate that you want your windows open all the time. You want the lanai door open all the time. AC is expensive.
So yes, it is expensive.
He's a fan.
Yeah.
We went many years without air conditioning.
Yeah.
We don't even have air conditioning now, but
Yeah.
we're at 800 feet, and there's not an
It's much
issue.
better,
There's
yeah.
not an issue. It's primarily sea level, and I guess the question is I think a lot of people are used to having 72-degree weather no matter where they are, what happens, because they sit there, they go home and they keep their thermostat either up to 72 or down to 72 depending on the time of year. And here we have a little bit more fluctuation of that. It could be 85 inside your house, and that's how it goes. Or it could
That is how it goes.
or it
'Cause
could,
we
be
had
down to 70.
Yeah, because I actually had a woman that I was helping her just look around different neighborhoods. She said, my dogs like to be kept at a steady 75 degrees. And I'm like,
she needs central air.
yeah, I'm like, oh, that's not going to happen. So, the temperature does make a difference. If you can't really deal with it being a little bit warmer and you don't have a lot of money, maybe buying a condo on the ocean front in Kona is not your
it's more
best bet.
challenging.
Yes.
But going back to one of the beauties of Hawaii is that our temperatures don't fluctuate that much.
Yeah.
We're below
It's pretty
90.
moderate.
and
Below
we're-
90,
we're- yeah,
but at least
yeah.
82.
Well,
so.
somewhere between there, daytime temperatures, right? I mean, that's what's a 12 degree
Depending
swing.
on your elevation, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so then also one of the things we're talking about with the different condo complexes is pets. So one of the things we talked about too was the pet restrictions in terms of your CCNRs. There are certain complexes that do allow pets, and sometimes they're based on how many pets and what kind of pets and
the
what
size.
they are. So Delania, chat a little bit about that.
There's not every complex allows pets. If they do, generally it's one pet and it's like under 20 pounds. And you still need to get board approval, even if your pet fits the parameters. You still have to go and just present the information. I had it recently with one. We were in escrow, and so we just sent a picture and a little write up about the adorable puppy to the association manager, and she reviewed it and she said, okay, you're approved to have the pet in the building. But if you're coming here with a large dog, you're going to have a really big challenge finding a condominium, or 2 dogs or 2 cats even.
Or 2 dogs and a cat, or
Yeah,
2 cats
yeah.
and a dog.
And a
It's-
pet.
the multiple numbers
birds,
add up and go really
fish,
bad.
yeah.
Really
Yeah.
kill
Yeah.
the problem.
And also, too, it's good to know there's certain breeds of dogs and cats that are not allowed in Hawaii at all. You
Yep.
just can't have them. And you can't bring reptiles. Well, snakes, right? You can do
No,
turtles.
no.
No snakes. You
No
can't bring
snakes.
snakes. So if you're a pet person, do your research, talk to your realtor, find out in advance what you might be facing if you're thinking about bringing animals.
Right. And also, we were talking about the airlines are changing, comfort animals and that kind of thing. And right now, all that comfort animal versus the, the security animal. That's
Support animal,
Support animals. That's pretty like this around right now. Is that if you have documentation that your animal is one of those like classes that right now the rules are not changing as fast as they are on the airplanes. So again, most realtors will be able to tell you what pets in that realm can go into different condo complexes.
Yeah, I mean, you have to tread really lightly because you're dealing with a lot of various issues there. So do your research, talk to your realtor, talk to the association, look at what you can and can't do in terms of bringing pets of any variety.
So you're okay. So on that, there's no hard and set rule. Everything is probably a little bit different as the different complexes are.
Well, yeah, because you've got the. Yeah, it's a tricky subject. You have to go into it in detail and look at every situation specifically. Versus, I don't want to give just a blanket answer, just because it's and it's an issue that's constantly changing and updating, and so we want to make sure we're being factual.
Okay, just because I've talked to a woman here who said, I'll just bring my animal and just say it's a comfort animal. Like, that doesn't always work. So
not advisable.
Well, and then speaking of also with the elevators and the air conditioning, all that kind of stuff, there are different condo complexes here that are called Condotels.
Yeah.
Right, and one of the things, and when you guys were just both talking about covered parking, air conditioning, that kind of stuff, those seem to be in the Condotel apartment complexes that we have, or the condos. So what's the story about those, and what's the story with financing around buying a condo in those?
So a condotel is like a condo hotel, combination, and again, you want to look at each project very specifically, but generally if they have a front desk that takes reservations, a lender might consider them a condotel. In that case, a lot of times they're going to want a higher down payment because it's not considered just a traditional residence.
So and one of the other usually they have a pool that you would put your condo in to rent it out with this, and so you would be part of the condo hotel. So the downfall of that is that you get a portion of the proceeds from everybody. So they rent all the days out, and so not all condos rent. So you're only looking at, they rent out 80% of the people, and they split it among all of the owners. So if your condo rents out every time because you've got the best oceanfront condo and it goes in there, still the money goes to everybody else. So you don't make a lot of money in terms of renting it out that way. But you don't have any problems doing it. You just get a check at the end of the month instead of having to rent it out yourself. So there's kind of advantage.
Conversely, if you don't have the best unit in the building, you might do better than you would
That's right,
on the open market.
So so get the least expensive condo at Kona by the Sea.
Right? I mean, actually, those do. They tend to do well as vacation rentals, and they're like you said. You don't do anything. You just put it in the pool. You tell them the days you want to black it out, and then you get checks. So
okay. So that happens with Kona by the Sea. I think that happens with Kanaloa.
Kanaloa at Kona, I believe, is one. The Islanders, another one.
And then what's the one with the blue whale on the front?
Royal Sea Cliff?
Royal Sea Cliff.
Yeah.
Okay, so those
there may be others, but again, you just want to look at every. I mean, I think the point is you want to look at your complex very carefully. There's so many factors that.
And I guess to figure out whether it works for you. I mean, just even we can't figure it out. We're sitting here talking about it. Well, it sounds like a good deal. No, it sounds like everybody. Oh, that sounds crappy. Oh, so,
you're in a commune. No, it's socialism. Oh, it's great.
I guess you say this. Well, this whole discussion is about that. As the saying goes, there's for every seat there's a person. Okay, and so this is today is to help you out there try to figure out where do I fit and what's important to me.
Right.
And at least we're having this discussion so you can kind of get.
Yeah, because just thinking you're going to come and every condo is the same here, it's not.
No.
There's so many different factors, and that's why. Okay, there's two things. It's important to have a realtor that understands condos in Hawaii and understands the ins and outs. And one of the things that Eric and I provide is working with realtors like Delania, who have been here for a very long time, have worked with many, many buyers in terms of getting those, condos sold. And she's also done some listings of condos too, so she knows how to market condos. So if you're thinking about even selling, or if you buy and you need to sell again, make sure that you use people who know how to market this correctly. And also, if you get my book, The Insider's Guide to Buying Real Estate on the Big Island of Hawaii, I talk a lot about different pets and pet restrictions, and I do have a list of all the condos and who is taking pets in this book. It was updated about a year ago, and Delania was reminding me again that sometimes things change because based on what the HOA rules are, but it gives you a good guideline. So this is available on my 365 Kona condos.com site. And also, if you are still trying to figure out if you want to move here, I have my How to Move to Kona book. And it talks about all of the various experiences about coming to an island for the first time, the culture, and how to fit in and community. And I also talk a lot about how you can make life a little bit more affordable for yourself. So those are available on 365.com. I'll put the link below. And if you need to get a hold of Delania, what's the best way for you to reach you?
My cell number is 808-989-3227. I have it with me now. I'm never without it. So, or reach out to Julie. She knows how to find me.
Right. And we'll also put her email address too.
Yep, perfect.
And if you guys want more questions about condos and stuff, don't forget we are here as a resource, and just go ahead and ask. Right?
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Good luck, guys.
Aloha.